Hello everyone, welcome to the KC Show. This is Kenneth Chang. We'll dive straight right into the topic today. So for the first topic today, we wanted to talk about the Parti Keadilan Rakyat National Election, the PKR National Election, which will be scheduled to be held on 23rd May, which is essentially tomorrow on Friday. We are recording this on 22nd of May, Thursday. So, as you all may know, the PKR elections will be having sort of like a change in electoral system. They will be changing from one member, one vote system to a delegate system. So what do you mean by a delegate system? So essentially there will be around 30,000 delegates from 222 political divisions, and these 30,000 delegates will vote for the 20 Central Leadership Council members and essentially the most important thing, the 6 top posts, namely the Presidency, the Deputy Presidency, and the 4 Vice Presidents. The Presidency will not be voted this time because Anwar was elected. Anwar Ibrahim is the current president of the PKR. He was unopposed, so there will be no contest in there. But there will be contest for the Deputy Presidency post and the 4 Vice Presidency. So today we'll be focusing in the Deputy Presidency post. So as you all may know, the Deputy President's post will be contested by Nurul Izzah and Rafizi. So the tagline is pretty been set clear. So on Nurul Izzah's side, it will be Damai. So they will be talking about stability. They will be talking about something like the party's stability comes first, you know, as opposed to Rafizi, who was, although he is the incumbent deputy president, he is widely being seen as a challenger and is an underdog. So first of all, let's talk about Nurul Izzah. So according to Nurul Izzah, she coming out to contesting is not a nepotism. As you all may know, because the president the prime minister is her father, Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, prime minister and also the president for PKR. So according to Nurul Izzah, she defended herself with this when she was contesting for this deputy presidency, saying that she will be voted by voters if she's gonna win the deputy president. And this is not nepotism, because as opposed to nepotism, this is an election. She will be voted by voters. Nepotism is something like you may consider this as a nepotism if you attain any political position or any executive position through direct appointments. Having said that, it is in my opinion that I still think it is a bad optics for Nurul Izzah, for PKR, even for the Prime Minister himself, and also a bad political idea. Why? Why do I think this is such a bad political idea, not just a bad optic? Because imagine in a scenario, and a highly likely scenario, that Nurul Izzah is elected as Deputy President for PKR. There is a perception that the Prime Minister family is controlling the party, essentially because the father is the president and the Nurul Izzah, the daughter, is the deputy president, and by extension PKR is one of the main coalition government, and the president is actually is also the prime minister. So it also hardens the perception that the prime minister family is also essentially controlling the government, or should I say have a big say on the government affairs, on the government directions, you know. And this is regardless of the competency of Nurul Izzah, because no matter how competent Nurul Izzah is, she will have to carry that baggage. I mean, she is carrying that baggage all along because she is a vice president and she has some position in the Ministry of Finance. But becoming or being elected as a deputy president will only reinforce that perception, you know, and it will be a huge distraction towards the government, and a distraction that nobody wants, and perhaps in some way it also gives ammunition to the opposition that may perhaps or possibly disrupt the government, which is something that I don't think anybody wants. So this is regardless of Nurul Izzah's competency, and regarding her competency, we'll come about this later. You know? So every political and policy decisions she makes, as I just say, she will be also putting herself under more scrutiny as she is the deputy president of PKR. So the first question that anything that she's gonna announce, that she's gonna implement, is in the mind of everybody. Everybody would think about whether this is a decision by the father or this is a decision by the daughter. And this is, I would say, the direct consequences of nepotism. And Nurul Izzah, even though if she sincerely has any political ambitions, as long as Anwar Ibrahim is the prime minister, as long as her father is the prime minister, she will essentially living under his shadow, unfortunately. Let's look at the political party structure, So if Anwar is the president and Nurul Izzah is the deputy president, it means the prime minister position will be even more powerful. And where is the check and balance? This is a question that we constantly need to ask. And to the credit, and to give some credit to Nurul Izzah, she did try to answer this question in front of the media, and she said that she has personally voiced out her disagreement to her father before, and most recently she told her father that, or she told the prime minister that she personally disagree with the Azam Baki reappointment as MACC chairman. But it's just that you disagree with your father on something as a daughter, or even as a public citizen, or as a vice president of the prime minister party, but that unfortunately does not translate into anything. So this is a problem that I have with Nurul Izzah deputy presidency election, is the fact that she may claim that she wants to separate herself from her father, but we see that even when after her father become a prime minister and she is still the vice president of PKR, we don't see any check and balance that has been implemented on the prime minister. So set aside Azam Baki, what are the other decisions that Nurul Izzah has publicly disagreed with Anwar and has forced the prime minister to make a U-turn? No, right? Yeah. And it doesn't look likely that Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, the prime minister, will perform a U-turn on Azam Baki, even though Nurul Izzah publicly disagree with the prime minister, or her father in this case. So this argument appear to be a bit shallow to me. It seems a bit weak to me that she could be performing a check and balance role and to her father, even though she may have policy disagreement, or she believes that the reformasi agenda has not been followed through by her father. Let us move to the third point, is that Nurul Izzah denies that if she ever be elected into the deputy president for PKR, she will be rejecting any cabinet position in her father's government. For me, this is something that I don't think it will happen. What I mean I don't think it will happen is that I strongly believe that a deputy presidency in PKR at its current coalition setting is that a deputy president would most likely translate into a cabinet position, and it will be a waste that if Nurul Izzah doesn't take it, if she was elected into deputy president for PKR. Because, and this is a problem, if she becomes a cabinet minister for Malaysia, for a country that has its power concentrated too much on the PM and executive, it is definitely not a good sight for both the father and daughter to be in the cabinet at the same time. And going back to the PKR party, why I say that Nurul Izzah would most likely accept a cabinet position in some ways is, if she's not accepting any position within the government, or not just cabinet, or becoming a deputy minister or important GLC's director and things like trying to govern the country, or trying to implement some of the policy that you have been wanting to implement. Why I say that is such a waste is because the party is already lack of talent. The party, PKR, is lack of talent, and we have to take into account that Rafizi Ramli would most likely resign his position also if he resign his portfolio as Minister of Economy if he loses the Deputy President position. So there will be a vacancy, and that vacancy, I would argue, that could only be potentially filled up by the Deputy President herself if there is nobody that is competent enough to take up the position and fill up the quota for a PKR minister position. So this idea that Nurul Izzah will not, she publicly say that she will not be taking up cabinet position, I don't think this will happen, and I don't think this will come true, you know. Then we have a problem which I just mentioned, the problem of both the father and daughter being in the cabinet at the same time or being in the government at the same time. In the past, we had a problem with the appointment of Zahid Hamidi's daughter into the UPM board of directors. I remember Zahid Hamidi's daughter was being appointed into the UPM's board of directors, and there was a hoo-ha, and a lot of people are making noise about it, a lot of people are not happy about it. Then, so why are we giving this such a special treatment to Anwar and his daughter? To me, it's the same, and in fact, it is more pronounced and it is more serious in the sense that I don't think Nurul Izzah will just be taking a board of directors of a public university if she is elected as the deputy president of PKR. One of the reasons Nurul Izzah talk about wanting to become a deputy president of the party is also about reforming the party. But I do strongly believe that reforming the party is not a good reason to contest them, because whatever reforms that you want to make internally in the party, first of all, you have a cable in itself with your father, which there is a direct communication, and he is supposedly the most powerful person in the party. And secondly, like I just previously said, a deputy president would most likely translate into a cabinet position, and in this case, the con would probably outweigh the pro. And even if there's any reforms that you want to implement which is good for the party, I think in your capacity as vice president, and especially where if Rafizi also has some ideas about reforming PKR, I'm sure you two can come into agreement together, align yourself together and do some reforms to the body, or perhaps make it more democratic, or perhaps make ordinary party member has more voice in party, or strengthening the machineries for the upcoming elections and things like that. So I do believe that Nurul Izzah can perform those roles as a vice president instead of competing deputy president. To me, Nurul Izzah contesting in the deputy president post is more like trying to stop Rafizi, or trying to ensure that her success, Anwar's successor, is indeed his daughter. So lastly, I wanted to also talk about, there was an interesting comment that came from Mahathir, and saying that when he was asked that, what do you think about the PKR election? So Mahathir cheekily replied that it is a family matter, it's not a political matter, so he will not be responding to that, you know. And this idea of that PKR elections, it's a family matter, this sort of like cheeky reply from the former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad seems to be resonate with the public. A lot of people I see on Facebook, on social media, seems to talking about why is Anwar Ibrahim, the Prime Minister, the President of the PKR, making the party affairs a party national election. Seems like something like a family affairs, which unfortunately there is a tendency for Anwar to do that. As you all may know, his wife was previously the president for PKR while he was in jail. So if this sort of like PKR national elections is descending into a family matter or deteriorating into a family matter, negative perceptions are coming up, why is the Prime Minister still persisting with such a decision, you know? Because there are definitely some form of endorsement or some form of blessings that Nurul Izzah is, from the President, that Nurul Izzah will be contesting as the Deputy President. So if PKR, authentic multiracial party in Malaysia, is risk becoming a family matter, why are we welcoming this side, you know, especially when this is a party that harbor some of the most important, the harbor hopes of some of the reforms of the country, and has publicly promised some of the most important reforms that would drive forward this country, you know. So why are we still allowing this to happen? Why are we so, not to say comfortable, why are we okay with the idea that Nurul Izzah could be given a free hand, or could be allowed to, she was endorsed and could be received the blessing to contest? And finally, I just want to briefly comment on Nurul Izzah's personal stature. Is there any achievement that merit her being elected as the deputy presidency of PKR? Have you all heard of any legislative achievements from her? To me personally, no. The only time that I remember that she managed to caught the attention of the national public at that time is that when she resigned as the chairperson of Public Accounts Committee in protest of the Mahathir Mohamad governments at that time, you know, during, if I'm not mistaken, 2018 to 2019. I personally don't know, is there any politics behind it or things like that? But aside from that, I honestly could not see legislative achievement, or there's anything notable that from her that could advance, that could make a case of her becoming a deputy presidency. So no matter whatever you say about Rafizi Ramli, he was vociferous during his opposition days, you know. He exposed the 1MDB scandal, you know, he exposed the Lembu scandal and all this kind of thing. And even if he is in government, no matter how much you disagree with the policy direction of the Minister of Economy, of the Padu data and these things, he tried to move things forward, you know. So in terms of policy achievements and things like that, how a politician should be measured, in this way, Rafizi is far more superior than Nurul Izzah. And so also, if we talk about politics, if you talk about straight politicking, you know, I wish to remind everyone is that Nurul Izzah also lost an election. She lost the precious seat of Pemangtan Pau, which was being retained even during PKR hardest hit years in 2004, you know. So somebody say that, you know, under the leadership of Nurul Izzah, the party could potentially win more seats than currently, you know. But the problem is this doesn't jive, you know, because Nurul Izzah herself lost the Pemantang Pau seat. If the candidate herself could not even retain his or her own seat, what are chances that what can she show? What kind of political leadership that she can show in trying to bring PKR to winning more seats, you know? So now we also wanted to talk briefly about Rafizi Ramli bid to defend his deputy presidency. So unfortunately, Rafizi Ramli, throughout this 2 weeks of campaigning, he also came with his own baggage. It would definitely be a tough election for him, and you can observe through social media and reading the news and see that perhaps his chances of retaining it is lower, I guess, as compared to Nurul Izzah. But unfortunately, I do believe that there has been a series of own goals or unforced error by him, which definitely do not help with his bid to retain the deputy presidency post. So firstly, I saw this news where I was a bit puzzled by it, is that he publicly said that Nurul Izzah losing would mean a dent in Anwar Ibrahim's position, both in the government and in the party. So first of all, I think he is trying to portray that the Nurul Izzah is actually the candidate that is favored by Anwar Ibrahim. So basically just trying to saying that there is a nepotism implicitly, you know, or trying to signal to party voters that there is a nepotism, and also trying to portray him as an underdog. But there is the problem here, is that you cannot publicly say these things, because it will not just create confusion, it would definitely diminish your chance to be re-elected as the deputy president, because whatever you wanted to say about Anwar Ibrahim or even PK, the president, or Anwar Ibrahim, how he managed his party affair in PKR, is that this is the person, this is the prime minister, he is the prime minister, and he is not perhaps, but he is the most powerful person within the party, and you are basically inferring that voting for you would actually damage his position in the government, or probably, or even most likely damage his chances for the next election. So for party voters who are looking for stability, who are looking for trying not to rock the boat, they will be not inclined to vote for Rafizi Ramli, since you put out those words so clearly, you know, especially when a lot of times when a party empowers, the need for reform or the need to do radical stuff or the need to shake the boat would be diminished. You know, people are comfortable in their position because, you know, you have climbed the greasy pole, you have reached the peak. So basically the party is already in power. You know, what you should think of, you know, naturally for politicians and for those who are in politics, is to try to sustain power, and what could potentially destabilize that is that trying to do things that weaken the prime minister or the party president position. So I sincerely believe that this would not help with his re-election. And then also there is some of the things, personal things that Rafizi says. He said that he will resign from government if he loses the election, and we're just focusing on campaigning against opposition, because he perceived that ever since becoming the government, PKR has always been on the defensive side, whereas opposition, predominantly Perikatan Nasional, was just attacking the government, and the government was just being defensive. You know, he felt that that would not help with the election, help with the upcoming general election. But that also brings out the question that it seems to me that you are more comfortable with being an opposition than becoming a minister or having executive power, you know, because you know we need to appreciate that we need to understand that politicians have different roles. There are some politicians that are good with campaigning, there are some politicians who are good communicator, but there are some who are bureaucratic, who are nerdy, who in the sense that who likes to study the devil into the details, who perhaps have more an inclination to drive policy forwards, you know. So there are different roles for different people in politics. But if that is the case, why did you accept that ministry, you know? Why do you become the Minister of Economy? Because to me, once you become a Minister of Economy, no matter how reluctant you are, you should just see through the changes that you want to do, at least finish your term, you know. And there is this, and this whole idea of resigning is also in some ways trying to threaten the Prime Minister, which I don't think it helps again with stability, you know. So no matter how much you disagree with the Prime Minister, you know, on policy grounds or even on party grounds, you should not threaten to resign, you know, because as in this case, the Prime Minister always have the power to sack you, yeah, because he's the first among equal in the cabinet, and he was the one that appoints you, you know. To me, is that if it's only major policy differences, like for example, you don't agree with a certain tax increase as a Minister of Economy, or you doesn't agree with a certain tax policy, or there is a major difference in policy, then you may resign your position. But in this case, I don't see any, as far as I can see right now, I don't see any policy disagreement with Rafizi and the Prime Minister. So I really don't understand why he resigned if he loses the deputy presidency post. Finally, I want to go back to the on the attacking and defending, you know, because so he pointed out, as I've said just now, so he said that I think the PKR, ever since becoming the government, they are just resorting to defending, but they are not attacking the opposition. But the thing is that why Rafizi is not thinking about attacking, not in verbally or in campaigning, but trying to think about attacking with policy and legislation achievement. Because when you are in government, you are bound to be scrutinized, or you are bound to be held to account by the opposition. And in terms of words, in terms of how the media runs, it's easier to catch the headline when you caught what the government is doing wrong rather than what the government is doing right. I understand it is a complex ecosystem, but I still believe that being in the government, you can choose to attack the opposition with policy achievement. We're trying to tell a national story. Since you hold the levers of power, you have the executive power to implement change. Say if you are committed to reform and you've done a series of reforms, and you are able to communicate it to the public through the use of public resources, through public media, and say the government has done this, and repeat ad nauseum, and constantly telling to the public, you have done this, the economy is doing well, and all this, you are attacking the opposition too, So say if you implemented reforms that has been promised, the opposition PN could not accuse you of forgetting of reforms, abandoning of reforms, and they will be resort into a defensive position. So that's what I meant by attacking and defending. But it's very unfortunate that Rafizi only think about attacking on defending in the sense of trying to attack the opposition from a sort of like a campaigning style. Rafizi said that if he resigned from the cabinet, so that he will effectively be a backbencher, and if he is a backbencher, he will be able to better attack the opposition. And I may argue that is not necessarily the case, because it would not be better if you are a government backbencher, as you will always have the baggage of being in power, and you could never outpromise PN, because you can always say that PN is doing this, is doing that, is not committed in doing that, they are just over-promising and all this. Perikatan Nasional will just come back, will just retaliate, will just retort to Rafizi Ramli and say, hey, why is your government, your party is in power, why don't you do that, So this is a classic dilemma of a government backbencher, and I don't think in this case the public will be convinced by Rafizi, because a lot of time at that time when Rafizi was seen to be attacking effectively against his political opponents, it was precisely because he was in the opposition, because he was able to promise, he's able to outpromise the government that he was able to do this and do this and do that, So this is basically a bit of karma, but that is also a curse that comes with being in government. You can never outpromise the opposition, but still, being in the government means that you can choose to attack, or you can choose to win elections with reforms, with policies, with good economy, with a stabilized country, with a country where everyone has his fair share, where everyone has his fair crack of the economy, the pie is equally distributed. So what do I want to say is that fundamentally it boils down to this Madani government do not have a success story to tell, or legislative achievements to talk about. Basically little and reforms and a slow economy. This is where Rafizi claimed to, he said that he is worried about this declining support, But the declining support should not be solved by you being more aggressive against Perikatan Nasional. You should try to retain the public support, try to retain the Malaysian support, or try to increase your vote share, hopefully increase your vote share in the upcoming election by pushing on reforms, by trying to accelerate the economy, and most importantly, doing all these things and communicate to the public that Malaysia is heading to a better direction, as opposed to the COVID years or even during the heydays of BN, Barisan Nasional. So there's also the issue that Rafizi was being surprisingly candid and upfront. You can see that most of his right now his campaigning, his party charamas are being put online. So every day he's been putting out, he's been attacking his own party members, regardless of the top leadership or even the youth wing, So he's surprisingly candid and upfront about the ills and perhaps a little bit of corruption inside Parti Keadilan Rakyat. But I wanted to say that being upfront may have played well to the gallery and may well have caused you to increase some public support. But ultimately, as I've said, only the delegates are eligible to vote. And the delegates are mostly party members, maybe or even party establishment. They would not be enjoying some of the. They would not sit well. They would not sit well with the messages, with the sort of like trying to air all the dirty laundry air all the dirty laundry out, within PKR, inside PKR. So by revealing all this inside PKR operations, you may well have infuriated the delegates, and the delegates would not likely would be disinclined to vote for you. So that is the problem back to the electoral system. So as I have said, only 30,000 delegates from 222 divisions will be voting for the deputy presidency's post. A lot of people, or people who even attend the party, the Hiruk Jelajah Hiruk that is organized by Rafizi and his team, they may be sympathetic to his cause. They recognize there is a little bit of slight. The PKR has already gone out of his way, or PKR did not hold dear to his reform agendas anymore. But as long as they are not delegates, they are not eligible to vote for you. So I guess we can conclude this PKR election chapter is that ultimately it boils down to the fact that, and this may in some ways, I'm predicting the deputy presidency election result is that Rafizi might be popular outside of the party but not inside, while Nurul Izzah may lack the political legitimacy as she has lost the party election, where she has lost the Pemantau election, and I don't think she is as popular in nationwide as Rafizi Ramli right now. But she remains a popular figure within the party, With that, I guess we can almost predict who will be the next deputy president for PKR.